March 2019 we introduced our new help and account management functions. These can be accessed through the help menu, or alternatively you can push the help button. The new help and account management screen provides structured access to some of our help information. So we have a start here page for people who are new to Efofex. We have a learn page where you can access more detailed information. We have a news page where you can access our news site, watch this video, or register for our newsletter. You also have access to some support questions, a page dedicated to IT staff which allows them to, for example, install on networks in Windows situations. And finally you have an account page where you can access information about the current status of your account and whether connections are permitted on your computer, and also perform some other actions dedicated to your account. So our new help and account management page is structured information to help you get the most out of your product. In the February 2019 version of FXDraw, we introduced an Earth Geometry tool, which you can find at the bottom of the Maths Tools list. Select the Earth Geometry tool and sweep out a square, and you'll get a globe rendered in blue and green. If I right click on the globe, I can start creating paths and changing how the globe looks. So there's 5 different ways of rendering, all the others are black and white, but let's add a path. So we're going to go from Perth to London. In case you don't know the latitude and longitude of Perth and London, you can click on the search button. The search button will pull up a database of about 13,000 different locations around the world where we can start searching. So we could, for example, start typing in Perth and select Perth that we're after. We can choose to output the result as either rounded or exact values, and that's loaded the first part of the path. And let's complete that by going to London, United Kingdom. Again, we'll have rounded values, and say OK and OK, and there's my path from Perth to London. Now at the moment it's rendered as going along the line of latitude first and then the line of longitude. I can change that. So for example, I can choose a great circle path or a line of longitude first then latitude. As I change that, the tool is calculating the appropriate distance travelled. So we'll go back to east-west first, say OK. Where the tool starts becoming very powerful is I can click and move it and have a look at the path better, or I can hit the right and left arrows and rotate my Earth. I can also pick up this slider and reduce the transparency or increase the transparency of the Earth and start looking at the internal geometry of what's going on in that particular situation. So you can see the circle of latitude and the central angle. I can also change the transparency of my Earth using the normal transparency slider. There are a lot of other options available. I can change the colour and style of the path. I can also change whether it's showing the central axis and the poles and the equator and an outside circle. Sometimes you might want to make up a question using the tool. That can be done very easily. So for example, if I know I want to go along the equator, if I put in a search latitude of 0, locations which have a latitude of approximately 0 will come up. So I'll choose Baluko in the Congo as one spot. You'll notice it's come through as 1 degree south, so it's not quite on the equator. There's nothing to stop me actually editing it, so to produce a question that's suitable for students I might want to actually make it on the equator. If I go to the second 0 degrees latitude, I've got other options also on the equator, so we'll choose somewhere in Ecuador. So the location database allows you to build a question that suits your particular needs. Finally, if I choose auto rotate, the resulting output will automatically sit there and rotate for you, so you can actually demonstrate what's going on to students in a dynamic way. In this lesson we're going to look at how to enter composite functions, which were introduced into FXDraw and FXGraph in September of 2018. If I enter functions f of x, g of x and h of x, they can be combined into composite functions. So for example, I've entered f of x as x squared plus 1, g of x is 1 on x, and h of x is sine x. I can then add f of g of x or f of x take h of x, or any other combination of those functions, and FXDraw will graph those combined functions on my set of axes. If I want to show the composite functions without the original functions, I need to go into function properties and turn off showing the original functions, so f of x, g of x and h of x, and when I say OK now, I will only get the two composite functions on my set of axes. In this video we're going to look at how to use FXDraw or Graph to demonstrate transformational graphing. I've created a graph and I've entered a named function. A named function is f of x, g of x or h of x, and I've used f of x as x squared plus 1. Once I've created the named function, I can then show transformations of that function by entering functions like f of x take 2 or the negative of or opposite of f of x, or even something as complicated as f of x, and all of those functions will be graphed on top of my original f of x graph, and I can have a look at the transformations. If I hover over the red graph, I can see that that is a graph of f of x take 2. You can combine transformational graphing and composite graphs in the same set of graphs if you wish.